Hello and welcome back to my face and another World of Tanks video. Today we're going to be doing the Super Conqueror, the British Tier 10 heavy tank. It's good. That's basically what I'm going to tell you from the outset. It's a very enjoyable tank, it's a very forgiving tank. If you're new to the game, I would recommend picking it up. And it's going to be being played today by a very good player in Fabian. He streams on Twitch. I am going to put his Twitch link in the description. And also, I believe he uploads on YouTube as well. So if I can find that, I'll put that in the description as well. So, let's get right into this video. And I'm basically going to tell you how I feel like you should play the Super Conqueror. How you can play the Super Conqueror. And recommend you some equipment, field mods. And kind of tell you its niches, its weaknesses, what to be aware of if you're fighting it or if you're playing it. So, let's get right into it. The thing you must note with this tank, and probably its most notable weakness, is its speed. It's not incredibly slow for a heavy tank, but it's also not incredibly fast for a heavy tank. And it is going to limit you into taking positions. You're going to get punished crossing to some positions, and it's just something you have to be aware of, and you have to work with it. You're not going to be able to push in as you can in some tanks. You have to be aware that you're only going to get up to 40 forwards, and that's using a Bond Turbo as well. You're only really going to get up to 40, 41 if you're using full crew skills as well. So, it's something you have to be aware of, and you have to include that in the way you're going to begin to play this tank, with the positions you're going to take and the gambles you take to cross to a position. But for Fabian on Berlin, this is a perfect position to take it to. It's not too aggressive, it's hull down, which means you can use this 10 degrees of gun depression and the good turret armor on this tank, which is also one of its weaknesses, but it's a general strength for this tank. It is a tier 10 heavy, it's a British tier 10 heavy especially, they're all hull down tanks. They all have good gun depression, so you basically just sit behind a ridge and use this really good DPM, good pen, and just farm. You know, this thing fully tricked out. In this setup, I believe Fabian's using a hardening rammer and a turbo. You can get your DPM up to just shy of 3.5k with 3,477. And its gun handling is also a limiting factor, but it's not horrendous. It's not going to be... It's not like 60 TP level. It's not Type 5 heavy level, right? It's good. It's manageable, right? You know, you can get it down to 1.89 seconds aim time, 0.29 dispersion. The dispersion's a little bit high. It's a little bit out of that comfort zone of 0.2678, but it works. You're going to notice the gun is a little bit trolley, but you can hit snapshots, and you will hit snapshots. And it's just a case of knowing how to play with a gun that can be a little bit unpredictable at times. But generally, it's okay. On the move, its dispersion, as you just saw, it's not incredible, but it's not horrendous, right? So, when you've got this thing fully tricked out, you can get the rounds per minute up to 8.69. And that obviously links to the really good DPM of just less than 3.5k. And it's that kind of DPM, combined with the gun depression, combined with the good gold pen of 326mm, that allows you just to sit on a ridge and just rip apart same tier heavy tanks, top tier heavies, and just punch your way through them. And just the damage starts to stack up really quickly when you sit on a ridge and you keep this gun firing. As you can already see, it's up to just less than 5k here. Now 5k. It just seems to work. Another strength for this tank, which is not raved about enough, I feel, as it is on other kind of British top tier heavies, really, and also mediums nowadays as well, especially with the Cent AX getting its buff recently, which I'm going to do a video on very shortly, so keep your eyes out for that. Is its HE. It has 120mm of HE pen hitting for 515 alpha. That's incredible. If you combine that with the rate of fire of 8.69, you're pushing this DPM up to at least 4.5k. It's very good. And I'm not going to spoil it, but you may see a little bit of the HE used later on in this game, just demonstrating what 120mm of HE pen can do when used correctly. So far in this game, we've shown the strengths of being able to sit on a ridgeline, use its armor, ricochet 60 TP shot, play and hold down, use the DPM, use the pen, and just farmed his way up to 6.5k, really. Nothing's really challenged him, you know. You saw a little bit of this tank's armor weakness, and here's the HE. With the STR-VK, you can pen this tank through the tracks. You have to be aware of that. It's very easy to perma-track this tank. All you've really got to do is just APCR AP for its tracks, and you can track it very easily. You don't need a high alpha gun. Anything at tier 10 is going to be able to do it. Something to be aware of when you're playing it is avoid peeking with your tracks exposed, because there is that risk you're going to get perma-tracked. But, you know, it's just something to be aware of. It's not crippling, but it's just something to be aware of, right? But as you've seen, moving into there, the good HE pen with the Leo, just sitting there and farming him with HE from an angle with the right play, maximising his DPM, maximising his just damage output, and as you can see, he's just picked up his 10k there, which is a relatively common experience for a player as good as Fabian, but it just shows what this tank can do in a really nice matchup. And has this game been a challenge? No. Has he played it perfectly? Yes. Has he missed out on damage? Yes. This could have been a 12k, 12.5k game had he have hit the shot on the TVP, had he have got a full damage shot into the Conqueror. But I chose this replay because it's perfect for showing you what this tank can do, right? When pushed to its max by a very good player. And look, if you're an average player, this isn't going to be your every game. You're going to still be able to do very well in this tank. It's just a case of, I feel like a lot of Super Conk players play it too aggressively. They rely too heavily on the armor. You have to be aware, and you have to know this tank has weak spots, and people do know of the weak spots now, so they are going to exploit it. It's a case of knowing what's aggressive, what's too aggressive, and you have to have really good map awareness and really good game awareness, I feel, to maximize a Super Conqueror. Because, yeah, you have the DPM and you have the ability to hold a ridgeline, but you can't hold a ridgeline against 5 oncoming tanks. It's knowing when to fall back from a corner that you're holding. It's knowing when to reposition to be able to sit hull down and not risk being flanked by the enemies who've won the other flank. It's just game knowledge, I feel like. The Super Conk, if you have really good game knowledge, is a tank that can really kind of like just go up another level than other tanks. But I'm just going to quickly just show you a little bit of this tank's weak spots, which you can kind of see. So you see how the kind of the gun mantlet kind of sticks out? That's a weak spot. So from the front, you can kind of pen directly around the gun, and these kind of areas on both sides of the turret are pennable. Between the kind of like heat shield, like here, shoot there if you're playing against it. It's about 300 millimeters roughly. So if you're playing, you know, an STB1, for example, with good heat, you can and will relatively reliably pen around the gun of the Super Conk if you're playing it against a ridgeline. But it's not reliable. The real way to destroy this tank is if you have heat, is to shoot its cupola. Its cupola is weak to heat, but you do have to hit it kind of in like this middle area here, in between kind of like these two vision ports. APCR, you can only really pen it from above at like this angle. If you're shooting it from this angle, you're not going to pen it with APCR. It's an auto ricochet, but you can pen it from this angle with heat. It's just a case of, if you're playing this tank as well, knowing what you're fighting. If you're fighting an STB, no, he's probably going to be able to pen you relatively reliably. So don't just sit there and just hold down on your left mouse button and click, because he is going to pen you just as much as you're going to pen him. It's, you know, just trying to avoid that being penned, you know, mitigating measures, wiggling your turret, going back and forth. It's stuff like that. But if you know you're playing against, I don't know, a tier 9 Kunzerpanzer, you can relatively reliably sit there and go, okay, I know he isn't going to reliably be able to pen me. Or if you're playing against your tier 9 counterpart, for example, the Conqueror, you know he's not going to he's still going to be able to pen you if he hits you around your gun, but he's not going to be able to pen your cupola. So it's knowledge like that which really can allow you to take this tank to the next level. But as I said at the start, I'm going to quickly now show you the field mods and the equipment that I recommend for this tank. It's good. There's 2 options, and I'm going to show you them. And the field mods are pretty samey for both setups. But yeah, if you're new to the game, I recommend picking this tank up. You will have a lot of fun in it. The line gets really good from the tier 8 onwards, so stick with the grind if you're from tier 6 to 7, and just stick with it because it's worth it when you get to tier 8, tier 9, tier 10. It is a brilliant line from that point onwards. So, hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all soon. Bye.